Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to another live broadcast. On this episode, we're covering new moves on hemp in Illinois and Texas and the raid that brought this issue front and center right across my desk. All that and more right here on this episode of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo is what allows this whole thing to go on.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening and watching The Cole Memo.
All right. Welcome back to another live broadcast. This one's totally impromptu. I did not announce it in advance, so if you're missing it and watching it after the fact, no sweat. If you want to catch these live in the future, head over to colememo.com/YouTube. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and that way you'll know whenever we go live or drop new videos. If you're watching it live right now, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. You can drop a comment and we can pull those up on the screen. Let's dive into the story that sparked today's broadcast. We were going to cover it anyway, but one thing led to another, and we definitely have to talk about it now. Earlier this week, Pam Bondi and RFK Jr. came to the Chicago suburbs for a crackdown on illicit vape sales. NBC News reports that a joint ATF and FDA operation comes as the White House has been threatening to send troops into Chicago to deal with crime. So this press conference that you're seeing on screen right now was in Bensonville, Illinois. Bondi and Kennedy announced the seizure of illicit vape products. Things like flavored vapes. I guess THC vapes were included, but also products containing a compound with opioid-like effects. You might be thinking of 7-hydroxy right now, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. And if you've been following this show, you might know we've talked about it in the past. So like I say, NBC, out of this report you can see on screen right now, it says the Department of Justice targeted distributors and retailers to halt their alleged sale of certain vaping products, including illegally flavored vapes, THC-infused vapes, and products containing 7-OH. That press conference ultimately led to a question for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and we're going to hear his response to that question now. So here is the Q&A.
Governor Pritzker. Pam Bondi was in Bensonville today announcing this raid on vaping products. Your thoughts on her choice of Illinois to do this, and also, while she was there, took another shot at basically saying that the crime in Chicago is the worst, and the problem is that the government here will not cooperate with President Trump.
Well, I know that President Trump's avid followers, and particularly those who are under his thumb in Washington, are just going to repeat the things that Donald Trump says. So I'm not at all surprised that Pam Bondi has said those things. As to the raid on the vaping manufacturers, I understand. All I can say is that remember what the vaping is about. It's hemp manufacturing and usage. And I'm deeply concerned, I think some of you know, about intoxicating hemp in this state. And we are going to have to do something either legislatively or from the executive branch to stop the sale of intoxicating hemp without any regulation whatsoever in this state. It literally is making our children sick. And it is a shame on legislators and on this state that we are not already doing something about it. We need help from the legislature to make it happen, or if not, we may need to impose executive authority to try to shut those sales of intoxicating hemp down.
Quickly on the Bears, please.
Earlier this week, Governor Greg Abbott from Texas exercised his executive authority. That was 2 days ago on September 10th. I'll throw it up on screen right now. Interestingly, you'll notice some similarities between Governor Greg Abbott's statements and Governor J.B. Pritzker's statements. Notably, Governor Greg Abbott is a Republican, once again, governor of Texas. Governor Pritzker is a Democrat from Illinois, but they're both saying similar things. Governor Abbott starts off by saying hemp should not be sold to our kids. So today I issued an executive order cracking down on unsafe hemp products, banning sales to minors, strengthening enforcement, and ensuring Texans know what they're buying. This last line I thought this last line really stood out. Safety for kids, freedom for adults. Let's roll a quick news clip on this out of Texas.
Action to prevent.
Here we go. Here's that clip out of Texas.
Governor Greg Abbott taking unilateral independent action to prevent underage Texans from buying THC products. Fox 26 political reporter Greg Rugen joining us now in studio after speaking with the governor here today. Greg, what do you have to say?
Anthony, with the long-term future of THC still locked in political stalemate, Governor Abbott says he felt compelled to use his executive power to keep the products away from kids. Abbott's order instructs the Department of State Health Services and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to establish new rules, including a prohibition of sales to Texans under the age of 21. The governor is also instructing the agencies to order retailers to check customer identification cards on every THC transaction. Abbott believes his action is a step in the right direction as policymakers continue to debate whether heavy regulation or a complete ban is the best path forward.
For one, listen, THC at any level is a danger to our kids. For another, as all legislators work through this process, there's one thing everybody agreed with, and that is we should ban it for kids. We tried to get that ban passed, and because it didn't pass, I wanted to use this opportunity to make sure that I empowered the State Department of Health Services to do what is already within their regulatory power, to make sure this is going to be banned for our kids. That alone will make our communities a whole lot safer.
The governor's executive order is actually being applauded by many in the hemp industry who support the age limit and contend its imposition can help prove that THC products can be successfully regulated instead of banned. In the studio, Greg Rugen, Fox 26 News.
So that was that report out of Texas. And I found that notable because, again, Governor Pritzker, Governor Abbott, they seem to be focusing on the same thing. They have concerns about children purchasing these products. And so Governor Greg Abbott has exercised his executive authority to issue an executive order to basically institute a age gate, a mandate to require that any transactions containing a cannabis product that you be over the age of 21. Brandon is commenting and saying, I was in Texas 2 days ago. I went into several shops in the Austin area and every single one of them carded me. And you're absolutely right. I've heard similar things that that many of these establishments will ID you. This just makes it so that it is actually now a legal requirement too. And so I can't help but wonder what Governor Pritzker's hesitance is to at least start with that. If his true concern is children, one would think that he would institute an age gate at the very least. We've written about this subject in the past. Governor Pritzker has appeared in press conferences holding candy and voicing his concerns on the subject of hemp. Again, he has in the past said that children across the state of Illinois are getting sick, they're being hospitalized, and we can take action to prevent that. And it seems that Governor Greg Abbott just did exactly that. I will say that while Governor Pritzker leads with concerns about children, if you really press him or other people in his administration, one of the other current concerns that they bring up is this idea that hemp is a direct competitor to the licensees and the state program. And really what that comes down to is the Illinois state program has issued a limited number of licenses in which people can sell cannabis products and a limited number of cannabis devoted stores. And that, I would say, is the main difference between sort of what you'll see as a hemp regulatory framework and what you'll see as a marijuana regulatory framework. And I'm saying that in air quotes because we're talking about cannabis here, but because of the 2018 Farm Bill, there are two arbitrary legal distinctions of cannabis. So on one hand, you've got hemp, and on the other hand, you've got marijuana. I say in air quotes. Both, of course, are arbitrary legal terms for the plant we know and love, cannabis. The difference, again, being that if you want to sell marijuana in the state of Illinois, you have to get a license under the state program. And just to be kind of candid about it, you can't just go and get a marijuana license because, again, the licenses are limited. I have interviewed the regulator that oversees both the hemp and marijuana program in the state of Illinois. And he said, that if I would have applied for a hemp license that morning, I would have been leaving with one that afternoon. And that really is the big difference. And that's what this debate seems to come down to, whether or not participation should be limited in the Illinois cannabis market, because it seems that all people on all sides of this debate agree that people under 21 should not have over-the-counter access to cannabis. Everybody agrees that people should know what they're ingesting or consuming so that labels should be accurate. And everybody agrees that the products should be tested so that you can get that labeling and so that you can know what you are consuming. Again, the disagreement comes in with how open we want the sale of cannabis to be in the state of Illinois. And it's been interesting to see this play out. And like I say, if the concern is the children, it looks like Governor Abbott has showed us this week that we can protect the children. And like Governor Abbott said, and I'll display it on screen right now, safety for kids, freedom for adults. And I thought that was very, very interesting to see. And I'm curious what you all think about this. Again, we've been tracking this topic for a while. I am going to continue sharing details with regard to this topic. And again, I'm just curious what you all think about this. Governor Pritzker seems to be indicating now that he is kicking around the idea that he might have the authority to do something. He does seem to indicate he would like the legislature to act, and that's if you didn't know, it's because the legislature really should act. Governor Abbott did what he did in the limited fashion that he did it with. He did it the way he did it because, from what I understand, that's what he had legal authority to do. What he would not have had legal authority to do, for example, is start stipulating what dosage caps should be, for example, or what the specifics of the law. Because again, if you didn't know, the governor does not write laws. The governor signs bills into law. The legislature writes bills with the hope that they get passed to the governor's desk to be signed into law. So, long story short, it'll just be interesting to see what Governor Pritzker does here. I think at the very least, what he should do, if he has concerns about children, is he should issue an executive order to add an age gate for all cannabis products in the state of Illinois. And then past that, I think he should leave everything up to the General Assembly or the state legislature, because there are proposals within the state legislature to deal with this. We mentioned it earlier, House Bill 64 from the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. There are other proposals we've discussed on the show. I do bring up House Bill 64 because it seems to have components that everybody agrees on. Again, this three-pillar approach: the age gate, the labeling requirement, and the testing requirement. No license limits with that proposal. And so many people, that sort of embrace the open spirit of competition are very supportive of that legislation from the Illinois hemp growers because it solidifies uh, this law at a state level. But it doesn't prevent people from participating. It doesn't further criminalize people, and that was one of the issues, with the proposal that Pritzker backed in the past. And again, we covered this on the show. You can read about it at colememo.com. He had put his support behind House Bill 4293, which initially focused on regulating massage therapists. The original language on massage therapy was removed and replaced with provisions targeting federally legal cannabis products, otherwise known as hemp. And this is the bad part that I am bringing up right now. The measure would have also imposed $10,000 daily fines on top of the criminal penalties outlined in the Illinois Cannabis Control Act of 1978. And in doing so, it would significantly increase the penalties for the cultivation, processing, and sale of cannabis flower, concentrate, and infused products. Notably, the lead sponsor of that legislation confirmed the bill would not affect online sales, leaving out-of-state retailers free to serve Illinois consumers. The legislation that Governor Pritzker backed and Senator Kimberly Lightford introduced would have exclusively targeted local Illinois businesses. And when Governor Pritzker was asked about the idea that legislation would put roughly 10,000 people out of work, and I can't remember where that fact came from, but Governor Pritzker was asked about that and ultimately dismissed the claims, saying, "I don't put any stock in those claims." He did acknowledge that many stores would lose the ability to sell these products, but emphasized that most affected businesses, such as convenience stores and gas stations, are not solely reliant on these sales and, quote, wouldn't go out of business not selling them. So, very, very interesting stuff here. I just had to address a comment here. Miggy says you can still piss hot in Texas. I think what you're saying here maybe is, since we were talking about hemp in Texas, you can still, as you say, piss hot in Illinois where cannabis is legal. And that's not unique to Illinois, by the way. That's in all states, or most states. I'm not aware of any states, but correct me if I'm wrong here in the comments, that have made it so that employers can no longer test you for cannabis. I take that back. Maybe some states have done it with medical cards, but yeah, that's something that still is a very real issue. So I do appreciate you bringing it up. It's like one of those unfortunate things where we say cannabis is legal. Meanwhile, in states like Illinois, you can be fired or even not hired because of your positive test for cannabis. So, all right. Well, that is the news broadcast. I want to know what you all think. Again, I will be covering this as it develops, this Texas thing. It's interesting how this Texas thing sort of seemed to come really close to home, if you will, especially because of the fact that Governor Pritzker has had such a focus on children. And so to see Texas move forward and sort of move to protect children, if you will, but still preserving freedom for adults, let's just say that this has been nothing short of interesting to see go down. And I'm going to continue to watch it all play out. And I hope you will be there with me as we continue to see this all play out. I'm laughing at some of the comments here. We are live, folks, so thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It's one of the best ways you could support this show. It really does help if you just take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe, share it with your friends. If you want to support me in other ways, you can go to colememo.com/support, make a contribution of your choice. You can also go to thecolememo.com and just check out my work. That goes a long way. We didn't cover it, but the Cole Memo was recently mentioned in the Chicago Tribune. They specifically featured a quote from myself. I'll be covering that in more detail in the future because I have more to share. But for now, I would just say go to thecolememo.com. And if you want to read about what I'm talking about, I will show it on screen before we go. Okay, so if you go to colememo.com, here is the homepage, and you'll see a story called Outdoor Cannabis Cultivation in Illinois. Tribune highlights story first reported by the Cole Memo. I think another way you might be able to get there is if you go to colememo.com/outdoor. Yep, if you go to colememo.com/outdoor, you can see some of the articles I've written on the subject, including the one that I just mentioned. So if you're wanting to see that before I talk about it on the show, check it out. And we'll see you in the next episode, everybody. Take care.